Andre Walker, GeorgiaUnfiltered.com, sitting here with Chris, but you may know him by another name, which is?
I DJ under the alias Reliquary, so yeah, I've been doing that for a little while now.
So how did you come up with that name?
It's a question I get asked a lot, actually. So a reliquary is a container for relics, traditionally religious relics, and it's kind of an old word. Like, people don't use the word anymore, right? Just like no one keeps track of religious relics, I guess. But yeah, so it's kind of a metaphor for me. Like, music is such an important and spiritual and kind of sacred thing. I consider myself as a DJ kind of the container for this very sacred thing for me, music. It's kind of inspired by Cascade, like just kind of like a one-word, like powerful thing is what I had in mind when I came up with it. So a little bit of digging through thesaurus, I found this word, reliquary. I was like, well, what does that mean? And looked it up and felt like it fit like perfect, so that's why I picked it.
So now you do a lot of shows at Unity and whatnot. Is this the Imagine Festival, the biggest stage you've been on?
It's not quite the biggest. I've done one other festival before where I got extremely lucky. Remember the Tomorrow festivals we've had here for a little while. 2014, I won a contest, actually, Trans-Addict contest, to play the Trans-Addict stage. Huge, like, trance central stage. So that was mind-blowing, like, crazy lucky experience for me. So yeah, it's just kind of a contest. Submitted a mix. The guy who curates that stage ended up liking it, putting me in the top 3, and just, I don't know, I just feel so lucky because my whole like Atlanta family, and then people like I've just like barely like met, they'd heard of me and like, wow, like vote for my friend Reliquary, my friend Chris, like his mix, share his mix, and just got way more support than I thought I ever would, honestly. So I mean, ended up winning the contest and playing the stage. So that was a dream come true, to say the least. So
now you mentioned that you don't necessarily want to go high energy if there isn't a crowd there. Seems like you are actually pretty good at reading crowds. How do you develop that as a DJ?
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm particularly good at it, but really a lot of it is common sense, It's a really common mistake for new guys. They're like, all right, like I've got the best music, like I love my music, which is probably true. You probably have good music, but the ones you like most are very often like the high energy, like peak of the night, because you probably heard it at the peak of a night and it meant something to you. But you really have to build that context, You can't just play like peak track. I mean, you can, but typically like an audience doesn't have a taste for that, Like there's no development, there's no energy. So you especially if you're talking longer than an hour set, like 2 or 3 hours, if you're just playing the same energy level the whole time, like anybody's going to get tired, right? So in that sense, it is like a common sense sort of thing. Typically you want to start with kind of wherever the room looks, right? Like the room has people still at the bar. Right. You're not going to pull people away from the bar with your banger. You're probably going to do exactly the opposite. No one wants to be the one guy out there dancing and raging like crazy. You kind of have to work them onto the dance floor. So yeah, like I said, I think a lot of it is common sense. You just kind of have to put your ego aside and just play to what, because that's your job, right? Is to get people dancing. So if they're not, you got to work them there.
So when I interviewed Bryson Taylor earlier, I asked him which he preferred, vinyl, USB, or CD. So same question to you.
Yeah, that's like the age-old question right now, right? Especially with the recent digitization. I actually don't really use either one or any of those. I use my laptop, so it's closest to USB, but I use a controller, which is probably the most frowned upon of the options for a couple of reasons, but I find that it gives me I really think that's the future. It's like software-based DJing. When you talk about CDJs and USB, they're often kind of interchangeable, but like they're a little bit limited in their capability. They're very stable, which is why they're the industry standard. Like your CDJs aren't going to crash like your laptop can. But yeah, usually what I'll do is I'll bring my laptop, and the software and the controller gives you a huge array of options as far as like effects, like cue points you can make, like live looping and stuff like that. You have a much more flexible platform than you do on like CDJs. I don't think many people are going to argue that vinyl is like the current thing. It definitely has a character to it and a flavor to it,
Right.
but it's kind of it's a little bit antiquated, right? Like, you know, you don't play cassettes for the same reason that you wouldn't use vinyl. Like,
Right.
cassette has like 2 tracks on it, 3, 4, whereas a CD, even now, who uses CDs hardly anymore, right? It's all streaming or USBs.
Right.
It's just a natural progression. But yeah, currently CDJs are the standard, but I think they're very quickly getting led by software-based controllers, which is what I use.
I feel like I'm getting an education.
Yeah,
You're dropping all these names and whatnot.
sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm just
No. It's. I mean, this is like a great education.
Yeah.
So if anybody's trying to get some gear, this guy's got to talk to you.
Yeah,
Where can we find you online? Are you on SoundCloud, Twitter?
So I use Facebook a lot. That's a really good way to get in touch with me or look at what I always keep it updated. That's facebook.com/reliquary-music. Use Instagram and Twitter a lot too, not quite as heavily as Facebook. And then of course the SoundCloud music, or soundcloud.com reliquary music. So that's where all that stuff is. And if you have a question about any of those more technical aspects, I'm happy to answer them. I'm a bit of a technical nerd,
Right.
if you haven't picked up already. So, but you know, that's kind of what's gotten me into production, DJing, and all that. Like I love the engineering side of it. So yeah.
Once again, this is Reliquary. Check them out on SoundCloud, Facebook. We'll have that stuff at the bottom of the screen so you can see it. If you aren't at Imagine this year, definitely come out next year because these guys are very big on supporting the local artists, and that's what
I can't
absolutely.
believe what they put together. Like it's just like such a crazy thing for them to have here in Atlanta. I love seeing it, so it's great. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Andre Walker, Reliquary, Georgia Unfiltered. We'll see you guys later.